Hello, and to the Fade Route NFL podcast. This is one of our favorite shows, if not our favorite show of the year. We're going to look at our playoff predictions. We're going to also give out some MVP, that kind of thing, and we're going to tell you who's going to win the Super Bowl. So, before I do anything else, I'm going to welcome in the mayor. Mayor, how are you?
I am great. Everybody is undefeated this week. No NFL football today, not even preseason, but that's okay. We are 4 days away from kickoff. The inventory plan at the store is coming together great, so it should be a smooth day. Thanks to the hard work of the entire staff, everyone pulling their weight. And that's what it's going to take for every NFL team to get to the promised land this season. Everybody, every coach, every trainer, every player to give everything to get to where they want to be. And we're going to find out who you and I think, I guess, are coming up soon.
Yeah, so I didn't say I was going to do a random fact, and usually I don't do NFL random facts. And you may already know this. Do you know the stat about the 49ers in the last 27 years?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, you wanna tell us?
So I guess, yeah, the 49ers in the past 27 years have either made the NFC Championship game or missed the playoffs. So that's pretty
Yeah.
incredible.
Yep, it's one or the other. It's pretty incredible for 27 years that's gone on. All right, let's get into a little bit of this year's stuff. So I looked at Pro Football Focus for this, and you can go around in different places, and they're going to have different rankings, of course. But what I did was I picked out the 14 best rosters last year, what their strengths were, what their weaknesses were, and possibly how they could address that this year. So there's 14 teams on here. I think after the first five, it could be really in any order, but I think this first five is definitely in a tier of its own. So since they won the Super Bowl, I'm going to go ahead and start with the Eagles. Their strength last year was really obviously Saquon and Jalen Hurts running the ball, but also their defense was really, really good. And we saw that in the Super Bowl. So that was the strength last year. And their weakness was, I mean, if they had one, it was really in the passing game. You know, they didn't get a lot done that way, but they didn't need to. If they had needed to, they probably could have done more passing. But what do you think about the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, there's the big shocking announcement. A great run team and great defensive team does really well and wins the Super Bowl. That's pretty much the formula to win. But if you're going to rely on your rush offense, you need to have the best rush offense, and your defense has to show up. They're going to be a great team. They're going to be big contenders this year, win a lot of football games. It's going to be fun to watch and play.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why they will be significantly worse. But every team relies a little bit on luck to get where they get. So it just depends on, get that kind of thing. Luck with injuries, luck with a game here and there that you think they're easily going to win that they lose. So I said there was five at the top in the top tier. So I'm just going to go through it. Ravens, obviously for them too, the run game was a strong suit for them. Obviously, we know Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. And they had a decent passing game too. They have for the last couple of years. Their only weakness was their pass rush, and obviously that can be a big problem. They did try to address that, so we'll see if they're better this year. A lot of people think they actually have the best roster, but PFF said Eagles were a little bit higher. And then I have the Lions next. Strength of this team, beyond the trick plays that they used to, pull out every single week, basically, their offensive line gives Jared Goff enough time to make those trick plays and get the ball out. So the big weakness for them last year was the defensive line and defense in general, but they just had so many injuries that piled up. So we'll see if they stay healthy this year. They're going to be formidable as well. Do you have any thoughts on the Ravens or Lions?
Ravens, they just haven't been able to get over that hump. But I mean, a few bad things one way or the other, and next thing you know, you're taking a seat and watching the Super Bowl. They've got the team that can get it done for sure. Lamar Jackson just needs to be, he needs to perform better than everybody on the team in the playoffs. And that's what it kind of comes down to. And, I think if he can do that, that team will kind of get to the promised land. As for the Lions, I think
Yeah,
said a little bit of good luck, bad luck last year with injuries. I think Dan Campbell actually needs to maybe take his foot off the gas in certain situations. There's a few times he went for it last year that could be questionable calls. I don't think that cost them an entire season, but, at some point, your team's behind you now. You've delivered that message. Now you got to make sound coaching decisions and win a football game and get there and let Detroit celebrate that first Super Bowl.
the biggest thing with Detroit, I think, is just losing both coordinators, which happens usually a lot happens a lot when you win the Super Bowl, you have that much success. The Eagles had the same situation when they were in the Super Bowl the first time against the Chiefs. But so we'll see if that makes a huge difference or not. All right, just two more in the top five, and then we'll just kind of quickly run through the rest of them. The reason why, obviously, I picked 14 is because there's 14 playoff teams, and I doubt that these will be the 14. There'll probably be a couple of surprises. But Chiefs and Bills, the Chiefs really relied on their defense last year. Their weakness was skill positions. Receivers, they're really thin. They had some injuries at that position. They won a ton, maybe 10, 12 one-score games. They had a lot of luck last year that went into that 15-2 record. And then we saw how that played out in the Super Bowl. They just weren't the same team they've been in the years past. So what do you think about the Chiefs?
Yeah, it sounds bad to say they lost a step, but they lost one step. They're still a top tier AFC team. Still going to have to contend with Mahomes and wow, I almost said Mike Holmgren. Listen to me, Andy Reid. Forgive me.
Hey, they are similar. They have a similar look.
Yeah, he is a heck of a coach, and he's much like many other of those teams losing coordinators left and right, has been able to keep something together in that team. A little bit of luck goes Kansas City's way. If they win that division, that's all it takes to stay in that playoff race. But we're talking about a 10-plus win football team this season, no matter what. I think both of us agreed on that already. So they're
Yeah.
going to be a team to contend with for sure.
And you made me think of something. A kind of secret weapon of theirs is that Steve Spagnuolo's been their defensive coordinator and hasn't gone for a different coaching job. So, sticking with the same coordinator at that spot has really helped and paid off last year. All right, the Bills, the last team in the first tier here. Their biggest strength last year and for the last several years has been Josh Allen. There's not really anything else to say. He's kept this team afloat. I think they've given up an average of 33 points in their playoff games over the last 5 years. So obviously they've needed to produce a lot of offense. And obviously their weakness then is their defense. And I don't know that their defense is going to be a ton better, but we'll see. They definitely still have some gaps at that position or those positions, and they brought back Jordan Poyer, who spent a year in Miami and didn't look great there. So I don't know what's going to happen defensively. But what do you think about the Bills?
Yeah, I think they're the team that their fans are ready for a Super Bowl. They've got a good enough roster to win the Super Bowl, but again, like you say, giving up 33 points in a playoff game is really hard to come back from, let alone not winning, not winning those and giving that up. You can't completely rely on the quarterback to get it done for you. You need to be solid in three phases of the game. We'll see. I think they're going to win a lot of games this year too, so they're going to be up in that conversation, and it could be a Bills Super Bowl this year.
It sure could. I'm not going to go through all the rest of the teams, but briefly. So the rest of the teams: Rams, Texans, Vikings, Broncos, Bucks, Commanders, Chargers, Packers, 49ers. In no particular order are the next 9 best rosters in the NFL based on last year and some predictions of this year. Do you have any thoughts on those teams. The one that stands out to me the most is the Vikings. But do you have any thoughts on any other teams?
No, I think the team that's going to, out of all those rosters, I think a team that's probably got some of the better than others is Tampa Bay. I think they're going to surprise a few teams, a few people this year and be better than what everybody expects them to be.
Yeah, I keep hearing that. They're the critical darling going into the season, but let's see what they do without their offensive coordinator. I'm still skeptical that it's going to be as miraculous a team. I think their defense, particularly the pass defense, was really bad last year, and they're another team that's going to have to score a lot of points to stay in the game. So we'll see how that goes. The other team on here, the Vikings, I mentioned, is having one of the best rosters last year. They're starting basically a rookie, JJ McCarthy, and didn't play at all last year. And their weakness has really been their offensive line. Sam Darnold was able to work with that, but I don't know about essentially a rookie quarterback dealing with an offensive line that's not the greatest. And so I'm curious how the Vikings do this year. I don't think they're a playoff team. Spoiler alert.
Who, the Vikings?
The Vikings.
Is that what you said?
I said the Vikings.
Wow, okay. There is a big spoiler alert.
All right. All right. So we said maybe just to go through our predictions for MVP, offensive player, defensive player, coach of the year, maybe rookie of the year, what we like the most there. I'm just going to say, I think Josh Allen gets another MVP this year. He's going to have to be a lot of offense. He already is the offense essentially, but if he's going to take this team to the playoffs, he's going to have to be the MVP, I think.
Yeah, that's a pretty good take. I think the MVP is going to come from a non-winning football team, non-playoff bearing football team this year. I think Joe Burrow is going to light up the scoreboard, and I think he is going to throw a bunch of touchdowns because we all know this award's going to a quarterback regardless. And my sort of stiff surprise, and I don't have a bell sounding, I had a concept for this season where I wanted to ask AI and have AI be a third opinion. But unfortunately, all it does is take a pool of all of the experts all together and who the most overwhelming pick is. So that didn't go very well. So that's not really my surprise. But I'm going to pick a long shot on all these awards. And I think Baker Mayfield is my long shot for the MVP this year. I think, again, he's got an opportunity to throw a bunch of touchdowns. And let's not kid ourselves, it will be a quarterback. So that would be my long shot.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen I think he's second in the odds. He's plus 650 below Lamar Jackson. So, yeah, I mean, you couldn't really, if you want to take a long shot here, I think that you're right about that. Somebody like that is worth probably investing a little bit in as opposed to the top 3 or 4. All right, offensive player of the year. I think the Falcons are going to be pretty good. So I've got Bijan Robinson as offensive player of the year. He's plus 1,600, so pretty good value. Yeah, your thoughts on offensive player?
Yeah, I'm going down the rabbit hole on this one. I'm going to say Jamar Chase. I think him and Burrow could have one of those special seasons that, I'm not saying that Randy Moss and Tom Brady had, but I think they have, Burrow's not going to throw 50 touchdowns, but he could throw 40 of them, and 20 of them are going to end up with Chase. I think it's going to be a pretty big year for them. You must be getting your odds from, I don't know where you're getting your odds from, but the only place we can bet in Florida is on Hard Rock Bet, and the odds are way significantly lower. They're not paying out as good for some of these players. Jamar Chase is only plus 800. When you said going backtracking to Allen, Joe Burrow was rated at plus 575 on Hard Rock Bet, so they're even paying out lower on their MVP odds. Shame on them, but that's what you get to do when you don't have competition.
Yeah, I'm going by Vegas Insider, so.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So you're right, though. There was no competition for these things in Florida. So defensive player of the year, I'm just going chalk here again. Micah Parsons, who currently has the best odds. He's obviously out to prove something here. Not that he really needs to, but he's according to Vegas Insider, he was plus 600 last time I looked, and again, that's the best odds for Defensive Player of the Year. Somebody's gonna have to take that from him because the Packers are kind of missing that piece, and so if he comes in and disrupts the offense the way I think it's gonna do, I think he's got this wrapped up.
Yeah, it's funny when I wrote these notes 4 or 5 days ago, and I honestly haven't looked at them again since. And I wrote down Micah Parsons to win Defensive Player of the Year, Jerry Jones to get the deal done, and he will be playing for the Cowboys. Well, either way, that's incorrect. Micah Parsons will be the Defensive Player of the Year, though, just for the Green Bay Packers. So much so that that game that they play in Week 4 against the Cowboys is going to be the difference in between the Packers making the playoffs and the Cowboys missing the playoffs. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, we had that discussion over text. Yeah, I expect him to make a huge splash there in Green Bay. And then Coach of the Year, I, of course, am very high on Denver this year. I got Sean Payton winning it. According to Vegas Insiders, plus 1,400, so getting pretty good odds there.
Wow, getting high in Denver. Is that what you said? No?
Pretty high on Denver.
The Rocky Mountain High? No. I'm going for
It's a mile high.
that scrappy guy from Miami Gardens, Josh McDaniels. I think he's gonna, if he can get a 10 or 11 win season with the Dolphins, that's going to be considered super successful for him. So I'm going with him for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, that would take that's Mike McDaniel, but yeah,
Or Mike McDaniel.
There's a Josh. Anyway, so yeah, it would take Miami having a good season, but that's a little bit more of a long shot. For Rookie of the Year, I have Cam Ward. I like the Titans this year too. I think their offensive line is going to be able to keep Cam Ward upright, and he has the second best odds for Rookie of the Year at plus 300. I have for my Defensive Player of the Year, Abdul Carter. Just makes sense unless he's a bust for some reason, which I don't think there's really any chance of. Barring injury, I think he's going to have that wrapped up. They always give it to a high drafted rookie in their first season. So I think it's Abdul Carter plus 250 who has the best odds.
Yeah, I agree with both of those. It's their award to lose, and pending they have a non-performing season, they're going to be named those. They're going to win those respective awards.
Yeah. All right. So those are our awards. Hopefully somebody can make some money off of that. There's too much chalk in my picks, I think, to win anything. But good luck to everybody. All right. So let's go through our playoff teams. I'm gonna start with the AFC. I looked at it. There's usually 2 or 3 new playoff teams from the year previous, and so I picked 2 new playoff teams for each of these. I have the AFC. I have the 2 new teams as being Miami, and I have Tennessee winning the AFC South. So that might be slightly different than what you have. But so here's my seeding for the AFC. I have Buffalo number 1 at 13-4. I have Baltimore number 2 at 12-5. I have Denver third at 12-5. I've got Tennessee at 11-6. I got KC at 10-7, Miami at 9-8, and Cincinnati at.
Okay, yeah, that's. Am I going with mine now, or are you gonna play your whole AFC out?
No, I was gonna let you do your AFC first.
Okay. So, my first team out, I have Cincinnati at 7-10. So they're going to have a disappointing ending to the season. But Houston, I've got first coming in 12-5. Miami 11-6, taking that second seed down. KC 11-6. Baltimore 10-7. Los Angeles Chargers 10-7, and then Pittsburgh making that last spot at an 8-9 record. I had to double check that to make sure I didn't make a mistake, but yeah, we're going to have an 8-9 football team in the playoffs. It looks like Tomlin's job will be safe for one more year because he's going to get his team to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably going to have to start over at quarterback, but I guess if they get into the playoffs, that's a win for them. All right, looking at the NFC again, I have 2 new playoff teams. That would be the Niners and the Falcons. I have Philadelphia with the 1 seed at 13-4. the Niners at the 2 seed with 13-4, and I had to look up the tiebreaker. That is, even though they have the same record, that's how I've got it playing out. And then Atlanta 10-7 is a 3rd seed, 4th seed Detroit at 9-8. I've got Washington getting in at 10-7, the Rams at 10-7, and then switched out Dallas for Green Bay. I think Green Bay gets the 7th seed at 9-8.
Okay, you were breaking up a little bit. Are you done?
Oh yeah, I said my
The
my
last one
7
I got
seeds.
was
Yeah.
Green Bay 10-8. What was before that?
So I'll just go quickly. 13-4 for Philly, 13-4 for San Francisco, 10-7 for Atlanta, 9-8 for Detroit, and then Washington getting in the wild card spot at 10-7. The Rams getting in at 10-7, and Green Bay getting in at 9-8.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, we're a little bit closer there. I didn't go with your 2 playoff team theory. I don't really know how many of mine made the playoffs last year. I think a lot of them, honestly. But I've got the hometown honer, San Francisco coming in 13-4, Washington 12-5, Tampa Bay 11-6, Detroit 10-7, Philly 11-6. Green Bay is now going to get their 10th win thanks to Michael Parsons. They're going to finish. I'm sorry, 11th win. They're going to finish 11-6, and Minnesota is going to be 10-7, and Dallas is going to be the first team out at 10-7. That trade blowing up in their face for the immediate. Jerry's promising the long term, which that doesn't make a lot of sense because he wants to win a Super Bowl before he moves on to his next phase in life.
The other side, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking there, but we never do with Jerry Jones. All right, so that means for me,
first round picks next year, which will help them win the Super Bowl this year.
I guess they try to get a defensive player to replace Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
I don't know. They get 2 swings at it, along with their own picks, so we'll see. I have the Philadelphia Eagles getting the bye, and then I have the Buffalo Bills getting the bye. So that's how I think that plays out.
Yeah, I've got San Francisco and Houston getting by in my bracket.
All right, and then I've got Green Bay at San Francisco for the first game, the Rams at Atlanta, and I've got Washington at Detroit.
Yeah, I've got Green Bay at Tampa Bay. I'm sorry, yeah, Green Bay at Tampa Bay, Minnesota at Washington, and Detroit at Philadelphia.
All right, so I have the Niners beating the Packers, which is what usually happens in the playoffs. And then I've got Atlanta surprising the Rams at home, in Atlanta, I should say, and Washington also surprising Detroit in Detroit. And so I've got San Francisco, Atlanta, and Washington moving on.
Yeah, I've got all the home teams in the NFC winning that weekend. So Washington, Tampa Bay, and Detroit are all going to. Detroit beating Philadelphia in Philly, so Detroit would move on. So I've got Washington versus Tampa, and then it would be Detroit versus San Francisco.
And just to go through the seeding after that, it would be for me Philadelphia, San Francisco, Atlanta, and Washington in that order.
Yeah, and it would be San Francisco, Washington, Tampa Bay, Detroit for me.
All right, and so we're moving on to the next round. The wild card's done. We have Washington at Philadelphia and Atlanta at San Francisco. I see Washington and the Niners moving on. I would hope Washington's kind of figured out how to play Philadelphia. And maybe they get a little lucky. I've just got Washington beating them at home in Philly, and then Atlanta losing to San Francisco in San Francisco.
Yeah, I've got Washington hosting Tampa Bay and San Francisco hosting Detroit. I see Washington getting it done at home, and I see San Francisco getting it done at home, making it year 28 where they make the NFC Championship game or miss the playoffs.
So we both got the same NFC Championship.
Yeah, bank it, bet it.
That's crazy.
Run it.
Yeah, how could it be wrong if we both got it? Let's look at the AFC before we do our Super Bowl picks. In the AFC, I have Cincinnati at Baltimore, Miami at Denver, and KC at Tennessee.
Yeah, I've got Pittsburgh at Miami. I've got Los Angeles at Kansas City, and I've got Buffalo at Baltimore.
Wow, Buffalo at Baltimore. That would kind of ruin the whole thing. So what do you have moving on in the AFC?
I've got Buffalo going to end up playing Houston in the second round of the playoffs, and Miami hosting the Chargers.
All right, I've got Baltimore, Denver, and Kansas City moving on. I've got Buffalo finally getting over the hump and beating Kansas City, and I've got Baltimore beating Denver. So I'm looking at Buffalo, Baltimore, AFC Championship.
Yeah, that's crazy. Buffalo and the Chargers moving on, and Buffalo being able to. I'm sorry, Buffalo would have the AFC champ hosting the AFC Championship game against Jim Harbaugh's Chargers.
All right, so I've got John Harbaugh and you've got Jim Harbaugh, but other than that, we're the same. So I have Buffalo moving on.
And they're defeating who?
Baltimore.
Buffalo beating Baltimore. I'm writing this down as we talk. I've got the Buffalo Bills reaching the Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara, California.
All right, so we have the same pick there. I just think if if it's a toss-up, you got Baltimore and Buffalo. I've got Buffalo as a home team, so that's really the deciding factor for me. Just that stadium's gonna be crazy. It's probably gonna be snowing, and I think that's why Buffalo will ultimately sneak it out. And then I have Washington at San Francisco. I know you're gonna tell me I'm wrong with this, but I have Washington, a wild card team, taking it all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I wouldn't doubt if Washington made the Super Bowl, but I will roll with the hometown heroes. Even though I live 3,800 miles away from them, I will still pick San Francisco.
All right, so you've got San Francisco, Buffalo in the Super Bowl. I've got Washington, Buffalo in Super Bowl 60. Just to look at it from the beginning of the year right now, at least according to Vegas Insider, it's Washington has the fourth best odds to make the Super Bowl at plus 850, and Buffalo has the best odds at plus 350. So, going to be a tight matchup, and really probably just comes down to who scores more points. Usually our Super Bowls aren't a lot of points, but it's trending differently the last few years. Last year there was a lot of points by the Eagles, but yeah. So I have ultimately Buffalo finally winning a matchup from 35 years ago when Washington prevailed over Buffalo in like 91. And so I've got Buffalo finally breaking through.
Yeah, I would love to see the Niners win the Super Bowl, but I think this might be Buffalo's year. I'll still pick 49ers regardless, but I mean, if Buffalo, Washington, or even Detroit made it there and won, I think, well, maybe not Washington, they've won a Super Bowl before, but if Detroit could sneak through or Buffalo could sneak through, I think it's their year. And I think if one of those teams gets in the Super Bowl, I think they're going to do it for everybody, and they will pull off that win.
Yeah, I can't see them falling short getting that far. They get over the hump in the AFC Championship game, and then they have a real chance to finally get a championship for that city. So, yeah, we agree, essentially. I know that you are rooting for something different, but we are both going with Buffalo. All right. So I think we covered everything. Is there anything else that we missed that you wanted to cover?
No, I'm picking my team, of course, for fantasy football championships. I'll pick yours just because we're making predictions. Good luck to you in your season, and good luck to us in our pool. We may have to find a survivor pool that we can get in together, and just for bragging rights, besides our own. Oh, we haven't talked about any of our games yet either, have we?
Oh yeah, that is something we could talk about. But let's stay on the survivor pool real quick. So I don't think we need another one, but now that both of our wives are playing, there's a little bit more of a rivalry. We got all four of us in that pool, so it gets a little more complicated in terms of who has the bragging rights. But I like the idea of having somebody on your side for those tricky weeks when you want to pick one team, you can have the other person pick the other team. Kind of, you know,
Yeah,
hedge your bet.
I don't know of anyone that wouldn't. It's not against the rules, of course not. But I don't know if there's a situation where someone's, if you're picking the same as your wife the entire time, you're just throwing $2.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I think the
Obviously,
parity in between our picks is enough to where it's like, okay, we can justify this.
yeah, I even saw it when it was coming down to the wire. Like I know some people just don't pay attention until it's over, but I am so much different than that. I'm paying attention like every single
Yeah,
game. I'm like
like in switching
waiting.
picks in the middle of the day, just to give yourself another advantage, just in case, or to get yourself over the hump in case that happens. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know why you wouldn't. Other than
no, I don't. Yeah, if you're gonna actually invest money in this, it just seems like you pay attention a little bit more. But I'm happy when other people don't pay attention because it just gives me a slightly better chance.
it's like that. My whole argument again about me trying to ditch the kicker when there's no reason to do that. Let them draft two kickers and think they've won. Ironically, the league that I did just draft in that we never ended up playing for money because everybody's too lazy to get together and make a decision. We there were one kicker off the board before the last round of drafting, and everybody picked a kicker in the last round. And the
Yeah.
person that didn't pick his kicker in the last round picked one defense and picked them very last. So I'm not sure what his strategy was, but we'll see.
I mean, yeah, I think those so much variance in those two positions that I'm not sure it really matters too much. I mean, there might be a couple defenses that are worth it because they might be scoring defenses like maybe Baltimore, but I don't know. Oh, I was gonna ask you, isn't Robert Saleh back with the Niners as a defensive coordinator?
He is. So yeah, that team's going to look a little different on defense this year. They haven't
Yeah.
lost too many core pieces, so I think that'll help them. But Salah's chance of becoming a head coach again maybe are not so good.
It depends if they win the Super Bowl this year, might be a
Yeah,
better
and he
chance.
doesn't end up with the New York Football Jets. It doesn't help when you end up with a garbage organization and then blame the coach because they haven't been able to do what any other coach hasn't been able to do in 25 years.
Yeah, and I don't see any of these. You know what would be a good spot for him though is if Mike Tomlin does part ways, getting the Pittsburgh Steelers would be pretty cool for him.
That's a fascinating pick, and he's a young guy, someone where, they could see spending a decade or a decade and a half with before they even give him a second thought. That's interesting.
All right, so let's kind of talk briefly about these games. We're gonna have to during the season. We're gonna have to reiterate what these games are because they're a little confusing. I mean, I'm just gonna start with the first one, which is just we pick 3, 4, sometimes 2 games that we like versus the spread, and then we get to sprinkle onto that as many croutons as we want, but at least 50 croutons, sometimes 100, sometimes 150. Every once in a while, it's 200. I have a $500 one that I'm looking at, and 500 crouton one, not dollars, 1,000 crouton one, and a 2,000 crouton one that I made a couple years ago. So it's definitely possible to do the spicy meatballs um, if you need them.
So what are we limiting this at something? Because I kind of feel like sometimes I want to throw everything at something.
Do you mean do you mean should we limit it or
Well, I mean, can I make my first bet of the week? And maybe we just stop calling them croutons and saying money because sports gambling is allowed now. We called it croutons when it wasn't allowed. But if I want to throw my $1,000 that Uncle Benny gave me the first week, can I bet $1,000 on one game?
you sure can. We're only calling them croutons really because we started off with the Caesar sportsbook and it was a Caesar salad reference, but we can drop the croutons and just get to it. Do you
Yeah,
so
I
you
mean,
have one pick.
it's an old joke that I don't think anyone really understands anymore.
Yeah, but you go back and listen to all those episodes. They're all good.
Oh, are they?
So
So
you have a pick
this
for
game, basically what we do is we start with $1,000 of fictitious money, and the goal is whoever has the most at the end of the season, all the way through Super Bowl 60 this year, will be the ultimate winner. So if you run out of money, you are pretty much out. So you don't want to necessarily throw away all your money right away. But I've got $1,000 bet that I got for you in week one. Stay tuned. I may not bet that myself.
Wait, are you gonna give out a pick now, or are you waiting?
No, that's for next week.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I'm not doing anything with that yet. So that's one thing we do. That's pretty straightforward. We just make weekly picks and put some money, fake money, but money on each of one of our picks. But that's against the spread, and then we have, or we can do totals, over unders. Then we have something called sink or swim. Do you want to take a stab at explaining what sink or swim is?
So sink or swim is basically the team is done, right? Is that our sink or swim game for the playoffs, or is that?
Yeah, it's kind of like a guillotine.
Yeah, basically we say, hey, you're sunk, you're out of the playoffs, you're not going to make it. But once you sink, you're out. It's one of those. I'm going to pick, say, well, the worst team I think is going to be the New York Football Giants. They're going to be on my week one sink. They are not making the playoffs, so I'm going to get max value for them because I picked them so early in the season. And the earlier you pick a team, the more points you get for them, and it's a cumulative total at the end. But we can only max out at how many teams don't make the playoffs. So we're
Right.
going to pick 18 teams that aren't going to make the playoffs. Teams kind of like the Dallas Cowboys, we may not know until week 15 or 16 where we'll get minimum value for them. But I may pick them in week one as well and get 17 points for a team that, is in that cycle of we them boys. But next season is coming quick with them 2 draft picks.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. There's a lot of strategy involved in it. And we'll explain it again, I'm sure, a few times in the season. Then we have something called Scratch and Sniff, which was the mayor's idea. So I'm gonna let the mayor once again explain Scratch and Sniff.
Wait, isn't Scratch and Sniff is the playoff game? Yeah, see, I did.
Yeah, that's the one with the
Yeah, because we're scratching them from the playoffs. See, it's been a while. Scratch and Sniff is the playoff game of we're scratching them from the playoffs. Sink or swim
Yep.
is basically a survivor pool where
Yes.
all the same rules apply, but you get to pick every week. And once you pick them, they're out. If you're right, you get 10 points for week one, 20 points, and 20 points, or 1 point for week one, 2 points, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Right.
And whoever has the most at the end is the winner.
Yeah, and yeah, so that is the 2 games, and again, we'll go over that again before we actually play these games. That'll be sometime next week. So speaking of next week, I think that's all we have. I'm gonna wrap things up. So for the man myself, thank you for listening. You can find us on YouTube, and you can find us on Spotify. It's the Fade Route NFL Podcast. Talk to you soon.